Good morning, traders. So we're still working with the Bill Williams and looking at the Aussie, the South African top 40. We pretty much are going into a range, and it's quite a broad trading range as well. But if we look at the oscillators, there's nothing here. We look at the alligator itself, it is still pointing to the downs. In other words, the trend is down. The challenge is that it's not quite strong as what it was 2 months ago here, but it is still pointing to the downside right now. So let's just get down to the lower time frames. I mean, this time of the year, especially on the Aussie, trading volumes will be thin. Most of the people are taking summer holidays right now. So you're left with a couple of algorithms that are highly capable of moving the market in whatever direction they want. So we kind of moved down close to the gap. Now, I know I picked up yesterday that some people had the gap closed on their charts. On my chart, it's still open. So that's something that I need to look at. But the gap to the downside is still open. The opening gap is also still open. So we'll look at that on the lower time frame just to double check that. But that's what I have as the closes right now. Okay, I'm going to leave those in for now because it will give us some kind of a indication of what's going on. Now, if you look here, you can see the diversions that we did have. Okay, double bottom, low, lower low on price, bounced up to the alligator and immediately formed a pin bar off it. And this pin bar itself is what's that? It's a 400 or 350 point tail. Okay, so let's just get down into the time frames that we can actually trade. Right, so looking at the hour, you can see on Friday we had a strong move up to the alligator and the 200 moving average. We then gapped down. We then had a strong move back up again into the alligator, and we've had a potential reversal pattern. I'm not going to call it a reversal just yet. It is an engulfing bar, and this is an indecision or a range bar. So you can see here the gaps to the downside. Sorry, that's not the right gap. There's a gap. So the gap to the downside and the gap to the upside is pretty much still open. Okay, so that may be my data. I need to actually research that, but for me at the moment, those gaps are still open. Now, the fact that we are not getting through the alligator is telling me that this trend is still to the downside, although it's quite violent. If you look at the previous uptrend, you can see we kind of, over 3 days, 4 days actually, we gradually moved up in an upward trend, and it was, it was pretty uniform and structured. Whereas if you look at this move to the downside, it's like 1, 2, and every big pullback, there's a rally, and then there's another rally. So, there's nothing really to read into it to say that this downtrend is intact or the uptrend is, this previous uptrend is intact and this is just a pullback. So the problem is the pullback is quite deep at the moment. So I'm kind of in two minds at the moment on the Aussie. We'll break it down to the half hour, you'll see what I mean. Trend is technically down, but these last 2 days are concerning me, especially the volatility that we've got here. So what I'm looking for is pretty much these two fractal levels here. Okay, I'm not really worried about levels at the moment, apart from the fractals. So the fractal to the upside is this 45 480 level, and fractal to the downside is a 45.030 level. Okay, that's pretty much what I'm expecting. So I'm expecting one of those levels to break, and then basically what should happen is we should target level to the upside, level to the downside. So the most logical thing to the downside is going to be this gap, and will kind of be that area there. So that's what I'm looking for there, which would be a 44.470, and a move to the upside. The most logical one is going to be the gap. But I just want to get to the hour. There is another. So there's a swing low there. Okay. And then there is another swing low there. So there's my swing low, there's my swing low. So those levels to the upside would be 45.628 and 45.700. Now I don't expect it to move much out of this range at the moment. Okay, the range is pretty large, so even at right at the bottom end here to the top, we're talking about 1,200 point range. But the futures closed out as this week on Thursday, and until the closeout happens, you're going to have quite a bit of volatility, pretty much between stuck in this range. So these levels will play a role for the next 2 days, and you got to be careful of what you do, because you can see the volatility, the tails all over the place. So a lot of indecision, lots of barbed wire, and don't expect a Christmas rally. Don't expect anything else except the fact that we are going to bounce between these levels. Okay, now if you've got time on your hands, one of the best ways to do this is to drop down to, for example, a 12 or even a 5-minute chart if you want to. Trade the strategy on a 12-minute, and that way what will happen is you'll see what's starting to happen. So you'll see pin bars, reversals, you'll see indecision bars like we have here off a level. So try to come stretch all the way up to the pin bar, but picked up these tails. There's 1, 2, 3 tails at a level. Look at that, exactly where we picked it up, and then the seller stepped in and pushed it down. Okay, so these little on the lower time frames is a case of picking up your levels, and this would have been almost a 200 point stop loss for 400 point trade, so 2-to-1 risk to reward. Okay, so I think for me, I'm not even sure I'm going to bother with this chart today, or for the rest of the week, maybe even for the rest of the year actually, because it's there is no real direction. There's no, the big daily levels are not being adhered to at the moment, and I'll give you an example of that. So 4-hour level. So you can see here was our previous swing low there. Okay, we did not adhere to it at all. So there's our previous support. We then broke down, and then we closed above it and tried to rally further before coming off the alligator. Okay, so pretty much your big levels that are in play at the moment are not going to be adhered to. It's just going to bounce around through the levels that you think are quite critical, and it's going to start using, well, not start using, it will use pretty much the previous day's levels. You can see here, there's our previous day's swing low on the half hour, and you can see breakthrough, support, 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 up, come back and test, and we're testing again. So that's kind of what I'd be doing if I'm going to trade this. Is just watch the half hour or even the 12 or 15 minute charts and just trade off those levels. Draw your levels in on the half hour or even the hour, okay, and watch those levels for ones that you need to trade off. Okay, so kind of a mixed bag for me today. I'm not 100% sure, and normally when that's the case, I stay out of it, and that's exactly what I think I'm going to be doing today. I'm just going to close off with the ichimoku quickly. So we've had a half-hour crossover. See, the cloud is still red. We're not through price on Chiku span, so there's nothing really happening here. What I do want to know though is how many bars this is. 15 bars, so we're kind of in between on the number theory as well. So the only thing that's standing out for me on the half hour is that bearish pattern and this bearish pattern. Could be a double top bearish pattern, or it could just be consolidation for another move to the upside. Difficult to call. If I look at the hour, we're kind of in between Kijinsen and Dickinson, so that always indicates a range. My oscillator is grouping towards the upside, which is a bit of a concern, which is also indicating that we're coming down. The other thing that's happened here is price bounced off the cloud, bounced up. We had the crossover off Kijinsen, which was a short entry, down, back up to Kijinsen, and also bouncing off the underside of the cloud. So logic dictates to me that we're going to move to the downside again. Okay. If I look at the 4 hour, we had a bullish crossover. We've now had a bearish crossover beneath the cloud with the pin bar. Okay. Chiku span is below price, and the cloud, we had a crossover of the cloud, it's red. So those are 3 bearish signals on the 4 hour, and they're pretty strong bearish signals. So again, the 1 hour and the 4 hours indicating a move to the downside. And the daily, everything's pointing down. Cloud's pointing down, Kijinsen pointing down, Chiku span's pointing down. Everything is leaning towards more downside. Okay. So that's kind of the view that I've got. The only concern that I've got is with these tails at the bottom here, obviously there are buyers stepping in. Okay. So if anything, just go back to the pili. If anything, what I'm looking for is an entry to the downside, and I suppose there's the next level that didn't quite break. Seller stepped in, closed on that trend line, and then went back in. So this trend could still be intact, and we could be looking for this wedge break that we had here, which was pretty much there. Or channel break, whatever you want to call it. It's kind of messy, but in actual fact, that's the one I was looking for there. So there was my original wedge. We broke through. We've come back. We could be testing the break of the wedge. Okay. So this could be, there could be more downside to come today. And I'm kind of like a 51% view of it down and 49% of it view going up. So kind of confused. And 10 cent at the moment is flat, 0.3 down. Rand dollar 14.31, not much movement there. And Nasdaq futures was 0.3 up. Nasdaq was 0.6 up, and the futures was 0.3 up at the moment. So everything's kind of flat at the moment, and that's to be expected because we've got the Fed's meeting happening, and they will be announcing their rates hike or no rates hike or whatever they're going to be doing later this evening. So I think most of the markets will just tread water until then. Okay. So that's kind of my view at the moment. Watch this fractional level. Just want to pick it up on the half hour. Yeah, the same one. So just watch this fractional level to the upside and the downside. Okay, there's merit for a move up and there's merit for a move down. That's basically what it is. So we're going to have to wait for confirmation. Confirmation will be a break of this range bar. Okay. Anyway, guys, that's me for today. Probably doesn't help you much today, but that's the way it goes. And enjoy your day. If you are trading, keep those stops tight, and I'll catch you tomorrow. Cheers for now.